Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we start, I would like to draw your attention to my weekly email newsletter, Friday Focus. Each Friday, I focus on one topic with one action arising. The link to sign up is in the show notes, or head over to amyrowlandson.com and sign up right now. Hello and welcome to Focus on Why. Today I'm joined by Monsui Tek. Welcome, Monsui. How are you?
I'm great. Absolutely great. What a fantastic start to the week to record an episode with you.
Oh, well, it's an absolute privilege to have you on the show as a fellow podcaster. Your podcast is, tell everyone.
My podcast is called Stuff They Should Have Taught You in School.
What a great title. I mean, you must not run out of any content. You must be so inspired of all the things that you can share with everybody.
Yes, there's honestly so much that they don't teach you in school. And as I go through day-to-day life, I learn more and more, which I then share on the podcast as well. So it's good.
And tell me, Monsui, is it a case of your audience are people who are still in school, or are they also people who have left school and just saying, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Well, I think that it realistically, the real learning actually, well, my audience is generally, I think the main bulk of them is up until the age of 30, I think 20 to 30. But obviously we have some that are older and some that are younger. At the current time of recording, it's not that big, but I think that realistically, the real learning actually starts after school, and school really doesn't set you up for much. I mean, so it does you some like social skills and basic maths, basic English and grammar, which you do need. But all the other stuff in between, mortgages, credit cards, all you need to actually go out and live like, doing a job interview, understanding exactly what your purpose is and focusing on why, exactly about your podcast as well, all of this kind of stuff they don't teach you. And you kind of just sort of chucked out to the world, and then you wonder why so many people are in so much debt. And then they get to 50, 60 years old and they've got no assets. In fact, they've only got liabilities, or they're only in debt. And it's even scarier, in fact, because I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and he told me that his student loan, the interest rate on his student loan is between 5 and 10%, which is it's just ridiculously high. I mean, I would not expect that, especially for a student loan.
Yeah, that does sound crazy. So tell me, you're how old now?
I'm 24.
And where did you find the sort of lack of information to fill the gap to understand about mortgages, understand about the difference between assets and liabilities and credit cards and job interviews and the purpose? So
I think that it started when, I can trace sort of some things back to one point when I was maybe like 14, 15 years old. And I was at this point, generally when I was at school, I didn't really feel like I fit in because I didn't follow the complaining mindset that you see here in the UK, where everyone is like almost a one-upmanship about how little sleep you got or how little work you did, and how, it's a negative one-upmanship, which doesn't make sense to me. And it never did. And there was like one point where I think I got quite frustrated with, I couldn't manage my time properly. And I got quite frustrated with that. And then I was kicked out of the class for something. I can't remember what. I think I spoke back to the teacher. And then from there, because I was frustrated, I started learning more about time management and organization. That led me on to Brian Tracy. And then from there, it was just, one thing after another, learning about personal development, self-development, all of that stuff, understood about investment, got into property quite early. Started attending property networking events around 17 years old, and then just continued on that. Then started to train to become an accountant. Well, I actually went into a couple of different industries to see which one was the one for me. Accountancy was just there's no real reason for me to be doing it, really. I guess it gives me some good background knowledge. I'm an optimist anyway, so I pick out the reason rather than thinking that it's a waste of time.
So here you are, several years down the line, having attended network events, property network events at the age of 17. And people who are there, they get it. They know why you're there. But what about your peers? What about your family? Did they understand your sort of trajectory, the difference that you are following a different way of life?
Well, I think when I was a lot younger, the peers, they didn't had no idea about this because they would never understand. As I got older, yeah, obviously the friend circle changed, and some people within that understand it. So I spend more time with them, and you just sort of like align yourself with people that follow that kind of. It's a situation of looking at where you are in life and realizing that that's not the end, or that's not where you have to be. Tomorrow, a month down the line, a year down the line, you can always change it. And the more you think that way, the more you realize it's actually in your hands, and then you just go ahead and just in my family, they were very supportive actually. My mum was the one that wanted me to go into the accountancy thing, which is like generally a very good qualification because they don't just teach you numbers and how to do accounts. It's a lot more. They teach you about law, and they teach you about time management, ethics, all this kind of stuff, which is very good to learn. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing why I started the podcast, because so many people don't have that. It's a way of thinking, isn't it? It's like a completely, when we're in the brand and marketing mastermind, everyone in there is there for improvement and getting better. Whereas you go down the pub and everyone's talking about the weather and crap and complaining and this and that. We don't we complain for like 30 seconds and then that's it, it's shut off, and now it's solution time. Right.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And it's really interesting how we are on the same mastermind together. I've been on that same mastermind for several years now. I joined back in February 2019 with Rob Moore, and we're talking about brand and marketing, but we're talking about so many different other areas as well. And you're right, the conversation is inspiring, it's encouraging, it's empowering, and it doesn't feel ever that you're in this space of comparison where you're behind or other people are ahead. It's a case of
No,
wow,
exactly.
yeah, and it's really, really interesting. So tell me, what is it that you want to achieve? Now, I know that you say you're studying to be an accountant and that you're on that journey, but that's not the goal. So what's the goal? What's the vision?
Well, the short term vision is obviously to have enough passive income to focus more on things that I actually want to do, which includes the podcast. It includes making my own music, includes various more development deals, more property, getting more full time into that, because that's something that I actually enjoy. I mean, I can happily sit here from when I get home at work, 6, 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock, analyzing deals, whatever. The ultimate long-term vision, we're talking 20, 30 years down the line, is to eventually have a trust fund where, so obviously from the podcast, I'll educate people. I'll hopefully have people on that podcast, people listening to the podcast, they learn more about financial independence. They'll trickle down into a new company, which I would have made, which is basically like a trust fund to invest in property deals and development projects, therefore allowing people to invest in property with a lot less effort than we currently know. Finding the deals yourself, talking to estate agents yourself, doing all the analysis yourself, going to try and get mortgages yourself, talking to mortgage brokers and accountants, sorting out your tax returns and all that kind of stuff. Whereas this would just be, putting a little bit of money into a trust fund and then build the development projects from using that money. And also to free up my parents, because as all of our parents have worked really hard to give us the life that we have, that's definitely one of the first priority goals, is to be paying them a monthly wage so they don't have to work or anything like, or they can just chill out or whatever they want to do.
And the podcast, let's go back to that. and stuff they should have taught you in school. You're episode 100. Congratulations. That is phenomenal. Most people give up and suffer from pod fade after 10 episodes or less. So what's kept you, what's championing you to keep going and share your insights and your knowledge?
Well, it's a hard question to answer because I think it's just it's the long-term plan and vision that's keeping it going, I think, because obviously, look, it's almost been 2 years now. I don't have a lot of listeners at the current time of recording. And that's why one of the reasons why I'm in the brand and marketing mastermind, of course, to promote that and learn how to use social media to promote it as well, but I think has worked. But yeah, it's just a simple fact of consistency is key. And that the fact is that you can be doing the same thing again and again for 5 years, and then only in the first day of the 6th year, then you see that small bit of growth. And I just really do believe in my soul exponential growth. And it's the same thing with property. Like, I'm really not where I want to be with property, but I have that belief of exponential growth. Like, okay, yeah, you've put in 6-7 years, you're not where you want to be, but then hopefully the next 6-7 years will be 10 times the growth that you had in those first. So but then if you give up now, then it's all for nothing.
Yeah, so it's not giving up on your dreams, your aspirations, your focus. It's understanding where you need to make changes in how you achieve those.
Exactly. Yeah, the small changes were that yeah. No, that's exactly it. That's a good point, actually.
So tell me, Mon, what is it that you are doing right now that you weren't doing before? So what are the habits and the challenges that, or the traits, the character traits that you've adopted to drive you forward? Because you're working, you're studying, you're investing, you're podcasting. There's a lot going on here.
Well, I think one of the things was, so when I so about 2 to 3 years ago, I took on my first commercial conversion, which was, well, the only commercial conversion I've done to date. But it was a huge project. Well, it felt like a huge project because it took a long time, a lot of money, and it was 3.5 hours away from where I lived, which meant a lot of 7-day work weeks consistently, and at the time I was working 3 jobs as well, which was just a bit much. And when I look on it back now, I'm thinking that it was just too much. So what I've changed from now is I've started to take Sundays back to myself. I started to allocate half a day or a full day every month to myself to just do things I enjoy. And generally this just involves literally just driving out into Surrey Hills, which is quite close to me, and just sitting in the car for a little bit with a notepad, going for a walk around nature where it's very quiet around that area. Whereas now here in the suburbs of London, you can hear cars going past all the time and this and that. So, and then also weekly reflections and monthly reflection. By month, every 2 months I'll do like a goal reflection. Every week I'll do a reflection on the week and what I'm going to focus on or what changes I want to make. Now, these reflections, they go like, obviously I do them consistently, but I find that the actions I say I'm going to take are not always the actions that I do take. So it's just a matter of bringing yourself back and saying, okay, let's try again. And well, hopefully one day then it will actually be exactly how you want it to be. And you make those small changes. And it's also a case of like setting your environment up for what you should be doing. So like I can see with you, you've got all your books behind you. If you wanted to read more, you would put books around you. If you didn't have the books, or if they were somewhere further away, then it would be much more difficult for you to do that, right? So in that same way, like, if I want to drink water, I've got a glass right here. So it's very easy for me to go ahead and drink the water rather than having to run somewhere else to go get it. So I set up the environment to do what I aim to be doing.
That's fantastic. And I'm inspired by the fact that you're here in your early 20s and you are so key or clued up to what you're wanting to do. I mean, I don't do regret, but I'm really admiring the fact that you are where I was probably only a few years ago. This is a case of I got to midlife and didn't have the understanding of the difference between assets and liabilities in the way that made it possible for my husband to retire, having understood that, having done the work and read and educated myself in being financially free and financially independent. This is going to be huge. And anybody who does sort of at the moment stumble across your podcast, have you heard back from them? Has anybody reached out to you and said, this has really helped me?
Well, no, I do actually put my email address at the end of each episode and in the show notes. And I say, email me with topic requests, your feedback, whatever. Even if you just want to say, look, have you got 20 minutes for a call? This is what I'm struggling with. So I haven't had any feedback, no, but I've had people say like, that's a great title and whatnot. But exactly what you're saying, you know what assets and liabilities are. This is one of the most fundamental things that you need to understand if you ever want to stop working, or if you ever want to stop exchanging money, time for money. So obviously, when you go to work, you exchange 1 hour for a unit of money. When we invest in assets, we exchange that time, a huge upfront cost in time, but then we get paid again and again with little or no time recurring. And that's the whole point. That's how you attain freedom of your time and your money. And this is the thing: is we got to learn it. We all got to learn it, and that's why hopefully this podcast will start to teach more and more people, and the more people that listen to it, the more people that realize that actually there's another way. Because all you do is you look around yourself. Like, if I didn't take the path, stumbled upon that self-development path that I did, I'd look around myself and I see all my friends just doing the same crap day in, day out. And, whatever it is, going to the pub Friday, Saturday, and then, hungover Sunday, and then Monday, then it starts again, hating work and all of this stuff. But there is a different way, and they don't teach you that in school for one reason or another.
Why do you think they don't teach it to you in school? Because it's not that it's not available, that information is out there, it's accessible. And what is it that the education system is holding back on?
Well, we could get into conspiracy theories here, I guess. We could start saying, okay, they want to set you up for being a good employee, which I guess to some extent is true. We can't all be business owners and no employees. And being a employee or being a business owner is not for everyone. There's a huge amount of, there's just a lot of work, there's no boundary between, stop at 5 o'clock, then go for a drink or whatever. There's no boundary like that. And there's no concept of 5-day work weeks or whatever, at least at the beginning, unless you make it so. And or you could say there's some people out there, the small percentage of the world, that are lizards or whatever other conspiracy theory they come up with, and they control all of the powerhouses and everything. But what I actually think is that we're just in a really outdated system, and it just needs a massive overhaul. The education system today is the same as what it's been for the last 100 years plus. And everything around us right now that we're looking at has not been there for 100 years. Okay, maybe a table and chair, but the rest of it is new technology. There's no reason why we should be using old technology today. It's the same thing as saying like, okay, I want to go travel to Scotland from south of London to Scotland. Let's go by horse and carriage instead of by car or train or plane. It's ridiculous. Why would you ever do that? There's always want to be using new information and keeping yourself educated. Whereas when you go to school, it's almost as if they force you to teach it. They force you to learn things in a certain way, which doesn't work for 90% of people. Then they hate learning and they hate reading, and then they never want to touch a book again.
And it's interesting because I've recently interviewed Henry Guyburn, and he had exactly that experience. He didn't do well at school. He's in our brand and marketing mastermind with us, and he's just launched his podcast called Fail Forward. And it's really interesting because he didn't enjoy reading. He didn't enjoy maths. And yet, now he can't get enough of reading. He'd love to go back and learn more about maths and will do, because numbers are so important in business,
Yeah, they are.
particularly seeing how his business failed and he just didn't see it coming, because this is stuff that they should have taught him in school. This is
exactly. I mean, it's just the basics. It's literally just the basic. And this is the thing you see is, okay, any business owner, any entrepreneur that we really need in this world, because these are the people that push the world forward. They'll have a passion, whatever it may be. It might be music or cooking or whatever, but they just don't understand the basics of money. And that's why so many businesses fail. Because they just don't understand the absolute basics. And it'd be great if we were just taught for even like one day a week for a year. I mean, can you imagine how much less debt people would have if we were just taught, if had like 20, 50 lessons on money management and basic budgeting? What a different world we'd live in. But then it also goes back to the question, okay, why do they not teach it in school? Is it because of the big banks and stuff? Because obviously this is where they get a lot of their money from. It's from lending, and that's their main source of income, really. So it's one of those questions. But maybe we don't change the entire school system. Maybe we just start with people around us, and then people around them, and so on. And then slowly the impact is made, and people realize that they actually have the power, rather than life happening to them. It's happening for them, and they're actually in control.
And tell me, Monsui, when did you understand the importance of purpose, the need for a why in your life?
Well, I think it's something that is it's an ongoing question. Definitely, I don't think I've fully hit the purpose yet. I think that it will change from time to time. And I just see it as a point of view as like, for me personally, I'm like, okay, I'm still living with my parents, even though I could be living in another property, one of my rental properties, but I'd rather still live with my parents, keep my overheads low, because I realize that at this time, you can try as many things as you want. Why wouldn't you? I mean, before I was an accountant, I worked in an optician. I thought I wanted to be an optician first. I thought I wanted to go to chemistry at university as well. And, I worked in a couple of other jobs like tutoring, security, this and that. And, it's just, why wouldn't you try all these things out? Why wouldn't you? And it's the same thing with traveling and like experiencing different cultures. Why wouldn't you? I mean, the world is so diverse. Why would you stay with one thing your whole life? It just makes no sense to me. And that's the whole point for me to go and do accountancy for a little. I have the sort of view where it's like, okay, we'll do accountancy for 5-6 years. Then the idea here is essentially having the money coming in every single month. Then you go and try out different things. And you say, okay, let's do a course in accountancy. Let's do a course in IT. Let's learn about how to code. Let's do, I don't know, professional speaking and whatever it is. And after 10, 20 years, you tried 10, 20, maybe 5, 10, 20 different things. Something's going to stick. Something's going to be like, well, that is what I really want to do because it drives me inside. Currently, the only thing that really drives me inside is obviously money, because you need it in life, and getting that as passive as possible, and music. Music is something that I've only recently, in the last 18 months, realized that is actually something I really enjoy, playing music.
And tell me a bit more about that.
Playing music?
Yeah, what instrument do you play?
Oh, I play piano and guitar. So, I actually played piano when I was very young, in primary school, maybe like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old, for a couple of years. Then stopped it for a long time, because what I see is that, this is the thing, is that when you're young, you're forced to play an instrument, you don't like it. But then as I got older, and this was during lockdown, I'd had a few drinks, I must admit, and I just stumbled across some YouTube video, and it was this guy playing piano, teaching you how to do some bluesy stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to relearn piano now, just based on that. So I immediately went up into the loft, got my old piano. It still worked, probably because it was Japanese piano, but and they build things right over there. And it still worked. It's a really crap one. It's only like worth £100 with plasticky keys and all this stuff. And I put it down. It took me like a month or two to learn just the first bar of music, which is just 1, 2, 3, 4. So just like that small amount of time took me like ages to learn it. Picked it back up, found that I really do enjoy that with guitar. And I enjoy it more than guitar. So now I'm lucky enough to have friends around me that play multiple instruments as well. So we go for jamming sessions and we started to make a couple of songs as well, which is just, very at the beginning stages. But it's something where it's like I could literally sit down for 2 hours, 3 hours. I wouldn't even realize where the time is going. And it's not like I'm playing one specific song. It's just improvisation. And I realized if you can learn enough of any one instrument to be able to improvise, that's when you start having fun. And you realize how versatile the piano really is, because I think that most instruments sort of follow it because that's where the scale is laid out. And then being a numbers guy in the background, I sort of learn more about that side of things. And then you realize that, oh, wow, actually music is also a lot of numbers and a lot of calculations as well. It's I find it very interesting to understand these sort of concepts. And I recently learned something else, some other bits and pieces about it called the circle of fifths, which went way over my head. But it basically, I think Pythagoras first figured it out, the way that you have octaves and things like that. And it's just amazing. Then you can understand how different notes work together, and you can like piece everything. You can like make a song straight off the bat just by understanding which sort of notes go together, which keys work together. With guitar, I played when I was in secondary school, so in high school for American people. Then I played for maybe a year or something. I was into metal at that time, not so much anymore. I was into my Black Sabbath, and as if you're watching on the video, you can see I've got a picture of Jimi Hendrix up there, which my friend painted for me. So then I stopped for ages. I had a friend of mine who's a very valuable friend, actually, because he was on top of me for about 2 to 3 years. He was saying, get back into guitar. You've got really good roots. So I dusted off, eventually it got through to me. I dusted off my old electric guitar. He helped me clean it, and it was really filthy. And then after I cleaned it, it was like buttery smooth, very nice to play. And here we are a few years later, still playing guitar. But I enjoy piano more, definitely.
I love that I asked you about the music, because it's the passion's just come out, and part of the purpose is to be able to give yourself that more time to be able to do the things that you love in life. And clearly this is something that you're going to be enjoying going forward. So yeah, look forward. Maybe you could put some of your music onto your own podcast.
Yeah, maybe. I've already got it on some of the Instagram. But yeah, maybe that's a good idea, actually. Maybe I'll make a song about stuff they should have taught. Maybe I'll make a song about budgeting, isn't it? Or something like that.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so great. I'd love to hear those. Honestly, it's been such a pleasure talking to you about why you do what you do, Monsui. It's so cool. And I just want to say thank you. How can people reach out to you? And you've mentioned your email. What other ways can they connect?
If you just search Monsui Tek, so MONSUI space TEK, everything will come up. Instagram, podcast, YouTube, although there's not too much on YouTube right now because I actually I hired my younger brother to do it, and if I found out that he wasn't really that interested in it, obviously, because he's only 12 years old. But just search Monsui Tek. Because if you search stuff they should have taught you in school, I don't think it really comes up. But Monsui Tek, yeah, it does.
Brilliant.
But this is also going to be going on my podcast as well. So how can they get in touch with you? So your podcast is all obviously called Focus on Why, which is again a brilliant title. And how can people get in touch with you?
Thank you. Well, it's on all platforms. So it's on all podcasting platforms, Apple and Spotify, all of them. And so that's easy to access. But also, if you just go to my website, amyrowlinson.com, you'll find everything you need there. So thank you for the shout out.
That's fine. I'll have all your links in the show notes anyway as well.
Great.
And I do have one quick question for you. So what actually led you onto this path of finding your why? And was there a specific event that sort of triggered it, or was it a series of events, or what happened?
Did you say it was a quick question? It might have been a quick question, but it's not a quick answer. But in a nutshell, what happened was I recognized that the mental health of my husband was deteriorating. He was working in the city, and it was not going to work out well if he continued much longer. So I resigned from my job and I set up a property portfolio. I went through various education programs to understand what I needed to do. So I got myself educated with property investment, and also just understood much more about how to be financially literate. So from that perspective, it took me 3 years. He retired. He's now taken over the property investment portfolio and the management of it, which has freed me up to do the things that I really love, which is life purpose coaching and podcasting. So in between, I've also done a lot of property training. I have a property podcast out there called the Property Vault Podcast. Haven't added any new episodes for a couple of years now, but it's still in the top charts around the world, which is crazy. And at the beginning of lockdown, my business partner and we parted ways. So we no longer did the property training. But what I ended up doing was launching Focus on Why, because I recognized as a midlife beginner that there was so much more potential that I could achieve in life. There was so many things that we could go on to do as a result of producing a portfolio, giving us the assets and also the income.
The ultimate freedom, right?
Absolutely. So the Focus on Why was really poignant for me, because I realized that I'd been sleepwalking and following the cycle of life that we had led to follow. And yeah, absolutely. The things that I wish I'd known and been taught in school, I am now sharing across the globe. And that's why Focus on Why is in 112 countries and is in the top 1% of all podcasts, because...
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. And it's because I am so passionate about getting the message out there that, yes, I have been all over social media promoting it, and word of mouth. When you get people on your show, and this is probably something that you could do more of, is getting more guests on your show to champion what it is you're doing and ask them what they wish they'd been taught in school. For me, 100% financial literacy, understanding the importance of purpose as well, and maybe not worrying about it early on, but knowing that at some point it was going to be there for me. I now live a living legacy. I live a life that I am sharing and shining the light on people's purpose through the podcast, and it is just epic.
Wow, I can just, even over video call, I can just feel the energy and the passion through that. But it's just amazing. And congratulations so many times for retiring your husband, for getting financially free, for building a property portfolio in 3 years. That's not a long time to build a property portfolio. I put it this way, I've been at it for 6+ years, 5, 6, 7 years, and still not built a big enough one for me just yet.
So I need to make a correction here. I need to just share with you that, yes, I did that. I built the property portfolio in a time period of 3 years, because that was the goal I set myself. You have to remember that my husband and I had been paying off our mortgage for before then about 20+ years, because that's what, and we also had another property. So we'd paid off the mortgage on that one. We then moved. And so we had equity. Yeah. So whilst it took me 3 years, add on the first 20 of all the years of working, of saving. Yeah. And so, yes, we had saved. So that was a good thing. And we'd paid down our mortgage. That was good, because it then meant we had instant access to funds. Now, anyone who's thinking, well, okay, I haven't got 23 years to get to that point, you always run out. You run out of money. And that's where understanding how you then use investments from others, and ethically and sustainably, absolutely. There are lots of rules and regulations that you need to adhere to. But what I'm saying is, I don't want it to put people off and say, well, I haven't got that. equity to then do it, because there will be equity or there will be access to funds elsewhere, as you know. So yes, there are many things that I, with hindsight, would have changed, but we can't do that. We can't live a life of regret. So there we are.
I think it's a good point to make, actually, that really, okay, you don't need your own money and you don't need your own equity. All you need is to get educated first. For anyone listening out there that wants to go into property, first and foremost, get educated. Then you realize that there's so many things you can do in property. It's literally a blank sheet of paper. It's not just buy a property and rent it out. There's so much more to it. And that's why I love it, because I can go to a property and I can immediately see 5-6 exit strategies, rather than just the standard buy and sell or buy and rent. And it's like, it really is a blank sheet of paper, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So go with what you need to do and follow your way and your passions and your purpose, but understand that there's no competition. Yes, I've made my podcast a success. You have to remember it's my second podcast. Okay. I made mistakes the first time round, and that's what you do. You learn. And going back to our good friend, Henry, you can fail forward with the learnings that you take from those. So have you got some final words, Mon, for the audience today?
I think that, I guess I'll just reiterate that where you are today, it is not where you have to be tomorrow, a week's time, a month, whatever. You always have the power. You always have the choice. As soon as you decide that you want to do X, Y, Z, you can do X, Y, Z, and that's it. I mean, the world is really there for you, and you don't think that it's pushing you around, because you're the one that actually takes control. If you don't take control, you're going to get pushed around. It's the same with anything. People will walk all over you unless you take control, and that's it, really. How about you? Have you got any final words?
For me, it's never too late to be who you might have been. Focus on why. How has this conversation had an impact on you? What value have you received from tuning in? What are your reflections with actions? Please take a moment to leave me an Apple Podcast or Spotify review sharing how Focus on Why has made a difference to you today. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. To keep it going, simply connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, or join the Focus on Why Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.